Do as the message says and like and subscribe or drop a 5-star review or whatever you can do here. We're winding it down, folks. We are a month and a day from the end of the NBA season. And so this is the time of year where I have far fewer things to promote. Well, although this year we do have that baseball draft guide, but usually I have almost nothing to promote to you at the tail end of a season. And so that's when I ask for the give back. Because I continue to roll with this, frankly, somewhat idiotic Iron Man streak of doing every Fantasy NBA Today show for something like 4 consecutive calendar years running. And then at the end of the season, I turn around and I say, look, here's what I need from you guys. And so right now, what I need from you guys is daily likes and subscriptions on our blossoming, like a flower in springtime, YouTube page for Sports Ethos. Or if you're listening over on the recorded side, please do take a moment to drop a 5-star review on the pod, whether that's on Spotify or iTunes. It matters not to yours truly, but I do need this from you guys as we rumble into today's Wednesday show. It's Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. I am Dan Besbris. Still, I'm telling you guys, I'm warning you all right now that whether it's the quick hits on Twitter or the YouTube shows, but more than anything, it's really the recorded editions of this podcast. I'm going to miss an episode at some point. I've done every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday episode without a missed day since well before COVID. I think in 2018, I had Adrian and Neil doing Friday shows for me in the off season, and I'm fairly certain that since then I have not missed a weekday. And that's like almost 5 years now. That's too much. That's too much. That's through a lot of colds, by the way. Anyway, so I'm warning you guys, there is going to be a misfire coming up here at some point. But let's dive right on in. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. I feel like by now every one of you has found me over there, but maybe there's one straggler, DANBESBRIS for the YouTube viewers. It is right there on your screen in plain whatever the hell my last name is. It's English letters. I think it's Yiddish, actually. It's sort of a Yiddish last name. Whatever. Milwaukee beat Orlando 134-123. We're just launching headlong into this stuff right now. No Giannis, no Drew Holiday, no problemo. The Bucks win again. They had that one loss blended in there, but Milwaukee's been unreal basically since the turn of the calendar year. They're 47-18 overall now. They do have the best record in the NBA by 1 game over the Denver Nuggets. And they have put a little separation between themselves and the Celtics at 2.5 games now as well, because Boston's been kind of, I don't say floundering, because they're still really good, and 5-5 in the last 10 is not reason for panic, but it is more pedestrian. Doesn't really matter, I guess. It gives Milwaukee an opportunity potentially over the last week and a half to give their guys additional rest, but they haven't pushed their guys that hard anyway. The biggest fantasy news out of this Milwaukee-Orlando game is that Chris Middleton cleared 30 minutes for what I believe is the first time since November? At all? No, he did clear 30 minutes on December 9th. Played 31 minutes. The next day he played 6.5. Tried to play through some stuff for 2 games after that, and then he was out for a month and a half, and he's been on slow ramp-up ever since then. The Chris Middleton ramp-up has been about the most strict a team has ever stuck to a ramp-up program, frankly, that I can remember. Because since he came back on January 23rd, listen to the minute count here, 15, 15, 15, 18, 20, 20, 20, 22, 25, 25, 17. That was a blowout loss, I believe. No, blowout win. Back up to 25, 23, 27, and now 30. Number of games that I just listed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 games to get back to starters minutes. That is a long, slow, arduous 6.5, 7 week ramp up. But we're basically there. Middleton was awesome yesterday. 24 points, 4 boards, 11 assists, a steal, a three-pointer, and 13 out of 14 free throws. It is far and away his best game of the year. And he saved it for some fantasy playoffs, although he won't be playing in Milwaukee's back-to-backs, which come on Monday, Tuesday of next week, and then towards the end of the following week, which unfortunately turns that one into a 2-gamer for him. Luckily, full tilt Chris Middleton is a start in a 2-game week. Very much a start in a 3-game week. Because full tilt Chris Middleton is top 50. That's generally your cutoff for 2-gamers that you'd start in a weekly format, and for 2-gamers you to hang on to in a non-weekly format. But obviously you need to get there first. And, if you get to March 24th or 25th or whatever it is, maybe he plays in the front end of that Utah-Denver back-to-back, altitude back-to-back. Yikes. No one should play in a back-to-back. No one should play in both halves of that one. Then maybe you cut bait after, if he plays in the front end of it. But that's pretty good news, actually, on the Middleton front. And I forgot to even mention that in my Twitter recap last night. This is a big deal. Don't read too much into the other stuff. Bobby Portis had a good game because Giannis was out. Ingles and Javon Carter got to do more because Drew Holiday was out, so they needed some more sort of stabilizing ball handling presences out there. And then Jay Crowder and Pat Connaughton are kind of beating each other up for those swing minutes. And in this one, Crowder had the better game, but that'll kind of kick back and forth. Why Mo Wagner only played 21 minutes is anybody's guess for Orlando. He was actually very good in his 21 minutes. 18, 8 and 3, 2 steals, 2 3-pointers. Didn't get back into the ball game late because the Magic decided they needed to force feed Goga Batadze 20 minutes. And to Goga's defense, he actually played relatively well also. But for me, as long as Wendell Carter Jr. is out, you're rolling Wagner. He's shown himself to be a very capable starting center from a fantasy standpoint. And that's what he is right now. And we don't know when Carter Jr. is coming back. No other real notes on this team. Cole Anthony was better, so Jalen Suggs was worse. Those two guys have rarely been able to coexist this season, and they both, to me, fall in the schedule stream bucket, which is a very full bucket right now. Expect to hear me say that term a bunch of times as we work our way through the card. Daniel Gafford, game-winning tip-in for the Washington Wizards. He played 25 minutes, which is enough to warrant a hold in all formats. He might be sliding back towards schedule stream zone, but he's been good enough in enough of the ball games to where when he has the bad one and it's 23, 24 minutes, does that average out with the 28 to 30 to a startable midsection? The answer is yes. Corey Kispert, on the other hand, I would need to see this a few more times. Denny Avdia is not trustworthy when that team is healthy. You could call Avdia and Kispert schedule streams if you wanted. They're not my favorites, but they're kind of like low-end schedule plays. And then I've gotten some questions about what to do with DeLon Wright, and the answer is ride it, man. He is the league leader right now in steals per ball game in the NBA. DeLon Wright at 2.1 since OG Anunoby went real cold since coming back from his injury. DeLon has blown past him, and DeLon's a top 50 per game guy thanks to that hyper elite category. And like good percentages, low turnovers, that doesn't hurt. What about Detroit? What about Detroit? Detroit makes me want to vomit. I hate talking about this team right now because they're teetering on shutdown. But then the question is who? So we got word yesterday in the afternoon that Bojan Bogdanovic shutdown is on the table. So if you're sitting on him and he's in an injured slot because he had to get the IL tag when he got ruled out in yesterday's ball game, he's a roster slot you could potentially soon, maybe, not yet, don't do it until we get confirmation, soon you might be able to clear that slot out. And if that's the case, it doesn't really do much for me because he's been in and out of the lineup a bunch lately, and Detroit's gone full mix and match mode. The guys that I'm not sure of are Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. With Bogdanovic, he's an older dude, so you kind of get it. And Detroit, first of all, they're locked into the bottom three, so I don't think they have anything to worry about on that front. But then there's also this whole, What if you don't get a top 3 pick? What if 3 teams from other spots jump all the way to the top of the board? Well, then the Pistons would still get like 4th if they had the worst record in the NBA instead of 5th pick. Doesn't change a ton in my estimation, but it might be worth them force tanking a little bit harder here. I don't know, man. They're so close to the bottom. I feel like a team needs wins just so they don't want to cry themselves to sleep every night. But I get it. So in the meantime, Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, you can start in most formats and then just pray they don't go to the free throw line. But, if Duren comes back, he probably gets 26 minutes a ball game. I don't think he plays 30, which makes Duren a very difficult hold in Roto games cap, unless you're kind of looking towards the future. Stewart probably mostly splits his minutes with Bagley as well. I don't think that as this team gets healthy, anybody is really going to get full minutes except maybe Jaden Ivey. He feels like the only guy on the roster right now that's kind of guaranteed starters level minutes, even when they get healthy. He's been very good lately, too, as everybody's been shut down around him. You'll see Alec Burks pop up on some of the back-to-backs. You might even still see Bogdanovic pop up on a back-to-back if they don't go full shutdown with him. And then at some point, I do think we still see Stewart and Duren, but their roles will not be that large. So I don't think you really need to be holding on to either of those guys. All they would do coming back is make it so that both power forward and center become more of a timeshare, and that's kind of screwed for everybody. Tobias Harris came back for Philly, and that knocked Jalen McDaniels out of the mix. DeAnthony Melton got the start for James Harden, and he did enough to buy himself some more time on a roster in a blowout win. So you can sort of half junk this box score. Anthony Edwards still stayed afloat on the Minnesota side, which was lucky because the rest of his team was flat out terrible. I've been so busy this week, and I've had so little time that I forgot to set some lineups, and it accidentally left Mike Conley on a couple of benches. And at the end of the night, I went, well, that was a lucky break. Hard to know that Minnesota was going to get steam trained like this. They've been playing a little bit better lately, I thought the Wolves had. And we got word this morning, talk about burying the lead, that Karl Anthony Towns did get some activity on the floor for the Wolves. So he's still trying to get back in time. I'm not fully convinced we see him in the next, 3 weeks or so. So on the head-to-head side, I don't think that you really do need to be squatting on him this whole time. I think with Roto, you certainly might as well. And for Minnesota, they're, I don't want to say comfortably in anything. They're the 7 seed, but they do have a little bit of cushion, especially while they've been playing a little bit better lately. So, keep one sort of side eye on the Karl Anthony Towns stuff. Otherwise, kind of junk this one because they just got smacked. Charlotte, big comeback win over the Knicks. You want to talk about a team that just went into full hangover mode? It was definitely New York. So their winning streak snapped. Knicks are still playing really well lately. They've been very good on the road, which, hang your hat on defense. When you play defense, you can win some road games, and they've done that. Knicks are the 5 seed. Everybody around them won, so it was a tough time for New York to kind of let their guard down. But it did work if you have some Hornets, because coming into this ball game, you might have thought, ooh, boy, this doesn't look great for Charlotte, playing a red-hot Knicks team, and then they caught him napping. However, there were only 4 Hornets that had good lines in this fantasy game. It was Oubre, Hayward, Rozier, P.J. Washington. All played well. Mark Williams did not, and you can put a little bit of that on New York. Mitchell Robinson, very good defensively on the interior, and so that limits the ability for Mark Williams to go get offensive rebounds and putbacks and things of that nature. He still played 28 minutes, so that's the good news there. Mark and the 4 guys I just mentioned remain holds. I think Dennis Smith Jr., I thought he would have a more prominent role. But what you're seeing now is that Charlotte is trying to play Williams, Richards, and P.J. Washington. And so that crowds things out a little bit to where Terry Rozier is forced into most of the point guard minutes now. And instead of opening up point guard minutes for DSJ when LaMelo went down, they just shifted everybody down a peg and are going huge for longer stretches. DSJ, I mean, honestly, overall, he's still probably playing well enough to be held in most formats. You could also classify him as like the world's best schedule stream right now. But I'm also kind of looking towards the future on the head-to-head side. Charlotte is rolling into a 2-game week, and he doesn't need to be held for that. I don't think Williams needs to be held for that. Like I said before, to me, Oubre is a yes, because he's going to take almost 20 shots a ball game. Rozier is going to take 20 shots a game. Hayward he's been a lot better lately. I'll give him that, but he's been a little up and down even now. Those 3 guys, maybe Pete. It's tough, man. And if you're in a dogfight and you've got a couple of them, you probably have to drop at least one. Head to head. You make me want to smash my head into a fence. Meanwhile, over on the Knicks side, I wouldn't make any large-scale adjustments. I'm a little surprised we didn't see Jalen Brunson for this ball game, but hopefully he'll be back for the next one. Emmanuel quickly slowed down after his monster double overtime 55-minute performance in the least expected outcome on planet Earth. I mean, these guys' bodies, like, they can get the adrenaline going enough for that one game, but there's going to be a letdown, and that is precisely what this was, because they shot 43% against a team that doesn't play any defense. That's just having no legs. They had no legs. I guess other than Mitchell Robinson. So anyway, no valuation changes there. Quickly is a start in all formats when Brunson is out, and more so on the head-to-head side when Brunson is in. Brooklyn blew out Houston. Also not particularly surprising. How about Mikal Bridges? Damn, dudes. Damn. I say damn. Mikal Bridges, thanks to his continued mega surge in Brooklyn, is now up to number 26 on a per-game basis. 8 by totals on the year. Yes, you heard that right. Over the last 3 weeks, basically since he became a Brooklyn Net, he is number 2 by totals and number 4 by averages. Not only is a first-rounder, he's a high first-rounder over that stretch. And some of this is limited sample size because as a primary, he's not going to shoot 55% long-term. He's probably not going to shoot 95% at the free throw line, although he is a very good free throw shooter. And his field goal percent is typically above average. Still, the game is just in his hands right now. And he gets steals, and he gets blocks, and he gets rebounds, and he gets assists, although he didn't get rebounds yesterday. And he gets 3-pointers at a ridiculously high clip. This dude is the real damn deal. Mikal Bridges, sick. Royce O'Neal, I actually considered him as a Brooklyn schedule play, and then I backed off, and then he had a decent ball game. And that's what he is. He's a schedule play, but no other notes. No notes on Brooklyn. You've got the main 4, and then anybody beyond that is a schedule play, sorta. Nerlens Noel, by the way, made his Nets debut and was inconsequential in the outcome of the ball game. On the Houston side, Tari Eason found 28 minutes again somehow. Jabari Smith Jr. actually had an okay ball game for once. Something, I guess. Jalen Green cooled back off. Missed a bunch of free throws as well. Kevin Porter Jr. cooled off. Missed a bunch of everything. KJ Martin played 27 minutes. He just isn't going to have as much to do. I got yelled at a little bit for suggesting that he might not be a rest of season play as the Rockets' high volume guys came back, simply because, a lot of what KJ was doing wasn't just about his additional playing time. It was about the fact that he was getting 14 shots a game, and that's just not going to happen when he goes back to being the 5th option in the starting 5, which is what he was yesterday. 21 shots for Green, 13 for Jabari Smith, 12 for Şengün, 11 for Kevin Porter, but he also gets assists, and 7 for KJ. So would I hold on to him a little bit longer? Yeah, because he's a starter. And as a starter, who's generally been just a hair over the cut line, but a lot of that has come with other guys out. Tari Eason, he didn't get as heavily involved in this one. He had some foul issues, 5 fouls in his 28 minutes. But 28 minutes is all you can ask for there. Usually rebounds better. Still got his 3 steals. And for this one, I mean, how are you going to rebound all that well when the other team is just power bombing you with shots? Love it. I think we're finally there with Eason. Took until March, but we got there. OKC beat the Warriors. Talk of the Thunder in tank mode. Perhaps a hair premature. Pronounced it annoyingly because I found the discussion of tank somewhat annoying. They are going to be careful with their guys because, look, they're not a championship contender, but I think they'd like to make the play-in. I think they feel like that would be good for their young guys. So Shea's probably going to get back-to-backs off. I'm curious if the Jalen Williams wrist thing was just resting the front end of a back-to-back or if it's actually a this will keep you out for a couple of days kind of deal. So let's keep one eye on that as well. Josh Giddey has turned it on late again. That's kind of been his MO, but is this the... I do wonder if this is the he's turned a little corner kind of moment for Giddey. I have not even looked at him in fantasy drafts yet, but perhaps if he can keep this run going, it does seem like he's settling in a little bit these days. Lou Dort was a guy who picked up a little bit of the slack yesterday with Jalen Williams out. Dort is not a guy you trust in 9-cat unless you're attacking specific categories, which makes him a schedule play. Jalen Williams is a schedule play right now. Curious if he can get above that. Not convinced he will, but something to consider. Isaiah Joe, he's a Shea fill-in play, so that perhaps on the table is kind of a one-night stand sort of deal, and that's basically every name on the team. Aaron Wiggins, I mean, he played starters minutes, but his fantasy game is not particularly good, so yeah, that's good on that front. Steph Curry looked like Steph Curry, 40 points, 10 3-pointers. He had 6 turnovers, so that wasn't great. Warriors had 21 of them as a team, and they're not pleased with each other in Golden State. There was footage circulating of Draymond Green just throwing his arms up in disgust on an offensive set, walking away from the play, and then a pass went sort of past him. He's mad that, I think he's generally mad at Jordan Poole. But the Warriors as a team just are absolutely atrocious on the road. They are as bad as the teams tanking on the road right now. It's really crazy. Whatever, though. Fantasy standpoint, Dante DiVincenzo remains a play until Andrew Wiggins comes back. Jonathan Kuminga got the start here with Kevon Looney moving to the bench. Golden State was trying to counter the smallness of the Thunder, and it did work. Kuminga had a good ball game, and he was a +3 in a game where very few Warriors were a plus anything. But it does feel like that was more matchup than anything else, which makes him a schedule play. And also kind of makes Kevon Looney one, too. Dallas beat Utah. Jazz continue to kind of fall on their faces here late in the season. But again, they're missing everybody. Excuses, you say. But, I mean, it's a pretty good excuse. They traded away their most important guard. Jordan Clarkson's out dealing with #thumb stuff. Colin Sexton's out with a hammy. So Lauri Markkanen's still playing, although it does feel like it's just a matter of time before he gets a few days off here and there. THT was a little bit better in this ball game, thank goodness, because he was really falling into a hole. I still prefer Chris Dunn between those two dudes. There are just fewer ways that Dunn hurts you. THT, not a good free throw shooter typically. He was better yesterday. Turnovers generally too high. I know this ball game was better, so it's not a good one to grade out the problems with Taylor Horton-Tucker. But you guys, if you're listening to this pod in March, you probably watched enough basketball to know what the issues are with Horton-Tucker. And Chris Dunn doesn't have those. He doesn't turn the ball over the same way. His percentages are better. Neither guy really hits the 3 ball. So that's why I would lean Chris Dunn. And all of this goes up in flames if Colin Sexton ever shows up, but it sounds like he's still at least a week away. So we might as well see this thing through. I am surprised that Kelly Olynyk is still getting starters level minutes. Feels like the Jazz are getting ready to pull the plug on things, but not quite yet. I love Kelly. You guys know I love Kelly. But I am genuinely concerned that sort of the end is nigh on this year. I wouldn't do anything about it, because as long as he's playing and starting, he's a good fantasy asset. But, yeah, concern thyself. For Dallas, Reggie Bullock got hurt. That thrust Tim Hardaway Jr. into a bigger role, and he embraced it with 7 3-pointers. Of course, that's coming against my team in a head-to-head league where I badly need to win large or I'm not going to make the playoffs. Stinking Tim Hardaway. He has been hot lately. Yeah, THJ's been on like about a 5 or 6 game heater. You can ride that if you want now with Bullock going down. Justin Holiday picked up a bunch of extra playing time. He's the guy I would rather look at. If we find out, like, let's say that Justin Holiday slides into the starting 5, I would take a long look at it because he gets the defensive stats in a way that THJ generally doesn't, and also is lower volume. So when Tim Hardaway Jr., when he's bad, he's real bad. And with Holiday, when he's bad, yeah, the 3-and-D stuff is still there to kind of float him in a way that with Hardaway, it's the 3 is sometimes there, but the D is generally not. I know THJ had 2 steals in this game, but let's give credit where credit's due. The Jazz were throwing the ball to the Mavericks. That was very nice of them to do so. Christian Wood, still only 21 minutes. The downward spiral continues here as Dallas leans harder into defense around all of the offense they have now in their starting 5. And this is probably Kyrie's best game with the Mavericks, although, again, grain of salt type stuff here going against a team that hasn't really played defense all season long in Utah. But, Kyrie's good. Luka's good. But, you're seeing the adjustment period. Luka, by the way, is down to number 16 on a per-game basis this year. We got off to that great start again, and then the low free throws and the high turnovers. That's really the problem with him. Everything else has been very, very good. And the Lakers beat the Grizzlies. This was shorthanded versus shorthanded. I know everybody's like, oh, Memphis didn't have Ja. Okay, yeah. Lakers don't have LeBron. They don't have D'Angelo Russell. This was going to come down to which team could sort of squeeze out a few extra good shots. And for the Lakers, still having Anthony Davis was very much the difference in the ball game. AD had 7 turnovers. Yikes. But he also dominated the game in basically every other respect. 30 points, 22 rebounds, and just devoured the Grizzlies. Devoured JJJ and Xavier Tillman. They didn't stand a chance. Healthy Anthony Davis is still kind of a sight to behold. It's so easy to forget how good he is when he's upright because he's banged up so damn much. But then you see these stretches. Like, remember very early this year when LeBron was dealing with stuff and, they still had Russ and a bunch of G Leaguers trying to fill in around him, and AD was almost carrying them. It feels like it 15 years ago, but this is what he was doing. It sounds like D'Angelo Russell. I'm going to call him I keep doing the D'Angelo Russell, DeAnthony Melton hybridization on this pod. I got to slow my mouth down a little bit. D'Angelo Russell is likely to be back Friday for the Lakers, which is likely to render Dennis Schroeder not usable in certainly Roto Games Cap. Maybe you could squeeze him in there for a kind of a schedule spot. Lakers are on a couple-day break here. They've got Toronto and New York, a couple of tough ones here to finish up their homestand. Then they've got a better schedule next week before it lightens back up again. Lakers have a pretty easy schedule and not a particularly game-heavy schedule down the stretch, which is good for their old guys because, likelihood of injury is a little bit lower, likelihood of rest days is a little bit lower. I still like Jared Vanderbilt. They didn't need him as much in this ball game. They needed him much more the last time they played Memphis because Memphis had Ja for that game. And so Vanderbilt was the guy that was chasing him around. Memphis didn't really have that dude here. Desmond Bane was god-awful in this game. And the Lakers did a lot of ball denial with him. They just didn't. They knew that Bane was the guy that could get going and hurt them. And Lakers executed really well on defense. Credit where credit's due. They've been doing a lot of ball denial stuff lately, and it's pretty big. Teams get frustrated when they can't get the ball to the guy they want to get the ball to. So then Tyus Jones ended up having to run a lot of offense. He's good. Tyus Jones is very good. He's the best backup point guard in the NBA by a pretty wide margin, I would say. But suddenly this game fell into the hands of Tyus Jones and JJJ, who had a pretty good game, by the way, and that was good for the Lakers. Xavier Tillman might be saving one of my fantasy teams with this stretch here. No Brandon Clark, no Steven Adams, so they pretty much have no choice but to give Tillman max Xavier. So he's very much a play. Tyus Jones, obviously a play while Ja is out. On the Lakers side, you got a good game out of Rui Hachimura. I wouldn't read too much into that. You know, he was warmer from the field, and so they wanted to stick with him a bit longer because he also is a big body. That's one thing the Lakers have figured out. It took them a while, and frankly, they needed different personnel. But when big guys are having, like, meh games, you can stick with them a little bit longer just because they can protect you a little more on defense and rebound a little more, as opposed to, like, you know, Malik Beasley is an interesting example. He and Lonnie Walker could not throw a basketball in the ocean yesterday. I don't know if I've ever seen Beasley look that bad in a ball game. He had a couple bricks that were like over the rim, banged off the side of the backboard kind of stuff. When he's off, when Lonnie Walker's off, there just isn't as much of a reason to leave him out there. So the Lakers went to more Austin Reeves, more Troy Brown Jr., who's very much earned it, and more Rui Hachimura. Simple enough. What do you do as D'Angelo Russell comes back? Because that's what you're sort of planning ahead for. I don't know that I would trust anybody beyond AD, D'Lo, and I still like Vanderbilt, though it may be the death of me. His energy stuff is just so critical. And then when you look ahead towards Toronto, a team that has all these rangy ball handling wings, I think they're going to need Vanderbilt in there to rebound. I think they're going to need him in there to chase Pascal Siakam around. This feels like just the kind of game that Vanderbilt's going to need to get 28 or more minutes, provided he's not in any kind of foul issue. Again, reminder, folks, more text messages coming in. Please do take a moment to like and subscribe if you're watching here on YouTube. We're up to 33 of those. And I'm going to take a second here to pop on over to the Twitters and let everybody know that we are moving into the schedule streaming playoff analysis begins now. Come join us. I know I need a producer to do stuff like this, but you know what? I don't have one. So in the words of one of those hormone monsters whose name I can never remember, what are we going to do, man? All right. So we got that out. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to let my internal pals know over here at Ethos that you're kicking on the live show. Did I put it in Discord? I did put it in Discord. Okay, that's good. By the way, you guys should join us over on Discord too. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. Let's turn our attention now to the schedule streaming portion of the proceedings. I have to figure out how to get that up on the screen for my buddies over on the YouTube side. And I think I successfully pulled that off. Yep, there it is. This is an easy one today. Don't do anything unless you are in one of two extremely narrow sets of circumstances. Don't do anything unless you're in one of these two scenarios. Scenario one. I don't know why my camera refocused when I moved like 2 to 3 inches forward. Scenario number one, you lost someone to injury yesterday, which, again, it wasn't that many guys, but like, I don't know, were you rolling Reggie Bullock? You might have been. What was Dallas's schedule? I mean, they were on a back-to-back yesterday, today, so maybe you were trying to squeeze out a back-to-back out of Bullock. It's not a long stream, so I wouldn't have recommended it, but let's say you were doing that. With Bullock now listed as doubtful, provided he is ruled out for tonight's ball game, you'd want to get off of that sooner. I know Shea is probably resting, but you're not going to drop a guy who's been a first-rounder even to add a couple of ball games because he's just been kind of too good himself. And that's really the only one I can think of outside of maybe Detroit, with all the rumors swirling of Bojan Bogdanovic being potentially shut down for the remainder of the season. But he should be IL eligible now. And, you know, I could see a world where if you already have someone in your injured list and then Bojan becomes IL eligible, you have to kind of make the call between those two guys. Which one do you think is actually coming back and which one do you think is probably staying out for the rest of the season? Bojan, it sounds like, is probably the guy that you'd end up having to cut. Okay, so let's say in that very narrow set of circumstances, you had someone that got hurt yesterday or is now being rumored to be ruled out for the bulk of the season. In that scenario, you drop that person for someone who has 3 games the rest of this week, and preferably also a game on Monday of next week. There are, however, only 2 teams that fit that, and it's Atlanta and Miami, 2 teams we've actually been talking about on this show all week long as having really good schedules. Remember, we talked about Atlanta having 5 games in 8 days to start the week. Miami also 5 games in 8 days to start the week. Starting today, 4 games in 6 nights, rolling through Monday of next week. Miami actually also plays on Wednesday. Atlanta does not. So between those 2, if you really had to pick one or the other, Miami is the slightly better schedule between those 2 teams. The other scenario where you might consider making a move today is if you have a fringy Minnesota Timberwolf, because they had a 2-game week, but one of those 2 games was yesterday, meaning the Wolves now have 1 game over 5 days to finish this week. That's not enough. Anthony Edwards is, I would argue, perhaps the only Timberwolf that needs to be on your roster for these 5 days. Yes, I would prefer that you hang on to Rudy Gobert, but it's not mandatory. He's a coin flip, and it's kind of depend on, it's going to depend on how close your weekly battle is going right now. If you're really in a tight one, you drop Rudy Gobert and you pick up some dude who has 3 games the rest of this week. You don't even have to worry about the 4 and 6. Just get 3 games the rest of this week, and there's a crap ton of those. Atlanta, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Cleveland, Denver. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's like basically a third of the NBA has 3 games still remaining this week. Like maybe 8 or 9 teams, something like that. So think about it from a math standpoint. If Gobert is going to get you like 12 points and 13 rebounds and 2 blocks in 1 game, can you get that out of somebody playing 3 times? I sure as crap hope so. That's what? 4 points? 4 points and 3.5 rebounds? 4 points and 4 rebounds, if you want to call it that. 4 points, even 5 rebounds. Hell, let's go crazy. Can I find someone out there who scores 5 points with 5 rebounds? Yes, you can. That's a top 300 player. They are on your wire in anything besides 30 teamers, basically. Because there is basically no one in the NBA that can do in 1 game what another player can do in 3, again, outside of the world's deepest fantasy leagues. Nobody. But, I'm assuming your playoffs probably continue after this week, so that's why you'd want to have Anthony Edwards for a 4-game week next week. And he'd be the last guy that you'd kind of cut in that scenario. But, Mike Conley, I like Mike Conley a lot, but he's definitely not good enough to ride out 1 game in 5 days. I like Slow-Mo a lot, but he's not good enough to ride out 1 game over 5 days. Jaden McDaniels, I like a lot. Not good enough to ride out 1 game in 5 days. So if you have a fringy Timberwolf and you're worried about losing your fantasy week, you should turn them into a player with 3 games because, as we've talked about, and I always come back to this one streaming adage, long streaming is about 2 things. One of them, of course, is being able to stretch it out for a long haul so you can stream more roster slots on your team. But the biggest one is whatever move you make, aim to get at least a 2-game jump. It's almost impossible to do that with every single move, but that should be your target. While long streaming, can I make a roster move that gets me a 2-game bump over the duration of this long stream? So if you're going Minnesota to somebody else and you're just worried about through Sunday, it's a 5-game long stream, you can get somebody with 3 games. The Wolves do play on Monday of next week, so if you went to, say, Atlanta or Miami, you could actually call it a 6-game long stream, and you'd still be adding 2 games to your ledger over that span. But outside of those 2 very unique scenarios, which I mean, you're kind of threading the needle a little bit. So it's people who are rostering like Conley, Jaden McDaniels, Slow-Mo, and maybe Rudy Gobert, not Ant, or someone who is dealing with an injured list overflow, courtesy of the Bojan Bogdanovic situation, or some other injured player that I'm not thinking of. But there really have been frightfully few players go down with injury. Reggie Bullock was the other one I said earlier in the show. There have been very few important players going down with more than day-to-day stuff so far this week. And I know there's only been 2 days this week, but so I don't want to get carried away or anything. But it does mean that you can probably save your roster moves towards the end of the week, and that's what we should be doing anyway. Do try your damn level best to hold on to your remaining moves until Friday or later. Atlanta has the back-to-back Friday, Saturday. Miami also has the back-to-back Friday, Saturday. So you're not really missing out on anything. And Brooklyn, I believe, and I'll double-check myself on this while I'm talking, I believe is the only team that goes 3 times Thursday through Sunday. They have that back-to-back in their Brooklyn had a good schedule starting yesterday. Their back-to-back is the meat of that sandwich. The bun is the Houston and Denver on Tuesday and Sunday, and then the beefy patty in the middle is Milwaukee, Minnesota tomorrow, Friday. So potentially Brooklyn is what you'd be looking at tomorrow, and really, Knicks also have 3 and 4 to finish the week starting tomorrow. So they're the New York teams are your 2 possible options. If something goes haywire today, if you have a player ruled out for injury or whatever, or if you, and we'll talk more about this on tomorrow's show, but if you make it to tomorrow, Thursday, with all of your weekly moves intact, then you need to start using some moves up. And that would be moving from a team that only has 1 game Thursday through Sunday to a team that has 3 Thursday through Sunday. Sorry, Charlotte is actually in that bucket as well. They go 3 times Thursday through Sunday. Boston has 1 game Thursday through Sunday. Chicago, Dallas, the Clippers, not surprisingly there because, some of these teams were 2-game weeks. Minnesota, but that's actually starting today. Phoenix, that was part of a 2-game week, and Toronto, their week was relatively front-loaded also. They only go 1 time after today, the rest of the week. So there are a few teams tomorrow where if you have a bunch of weekly moves to use, that would be the time to do it. And believe it or not, folks, that is actually our show. We're able to kind of move a little bit quicker these days, especially when there isn't as much to stream. Friends on the recorded side, please do come join us on YouTube at some point here in the not too distant future. We're having a ball. We're eating too fast over on the YouTube side. But if you can't make it, I totally understand. We're trying to get these fired up around the 9 a.m. hour Pacific time. Again, if you are listening on the recorded pod, please drop a 5-star review. It's the time of the year where I start to really bug you about it because we are on the downslope. Some of you are going to stop listening when your league ends. I get it. Even though we go full bore throughout the entire offseason, through the playoffs, we talk some betting in there. We talk a lot of lessons learned. I'd like to say that I'm ready for the offseason, but I'm not. I love the first 4 weeks of the offseason because we get to do all these lessons learned shows. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I got 5 months to kill. What the hell am I going to do? Also follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, and we will do it all again tomorrow. Let's keep winning the day in our playoff leagues. So long for now. YouTubers, I got to do one more tweet, and then we'll move on to the next thing here. It is Q&A time. Where did we leave off? Daniel, that was the question we left off at. Whoops, I almost dropped something. Spilled water all over the bedroom. Josh Richardson is back. 3 games remaining this week. Is he an ad? He's an ad if you have a player that only has 1 game the rest of the week. I'm not picking him up if I'm only gaining 1 game out of it, especially when you consider the fact that the Pels have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. So they go today, but then they're off for 2 days. So it's not really a good streaming move. If you're talking Roto, then sure, assuming he does get his starting spot back, which I don't know, will he or won't he? I don't actually know for sure. Is Aaron Wiggins a good pickup with Shea resting? I don't like his fantasy game very much. Not a fan. Any good or sneaky pickup for Thursday through Sunday, and any players playing 3 more games rest of week? Well, that was what we were just talking about for tomorrow. We'll go a little deeper on that on tomorrow's show. I think the fringy Brooklyn Nets would be worth looking at, like a Royce O'Neal or a Dorian Finney-Smith, or even a Joe Harris if we think he plays in the back-to-back. Charlotte, most of those guys are probably rostered starting yesterday because they had 4 games in 6 days to finish out the week. But if they're not, Dennis Smith Jr. is really kind of the only guy there. I guess you could look at Nick Richards if you badly needed rebounds, field goal percent, and maybe 2 to 3 blocks, but not my favorite. And then the Knicks, there really isn't anybody on the Knicks that's right along the borderline. Isaiah Hartenstein is kind of the closest one. So it's really Brooklyn has the best schedule stream type of guys going into that Thursday through Sunday. And again, make sure the guy you're dropping only has 1 game. Who wins statistically? Top 30 with 2 games versus top 60 with 4. Top 60 with 4, and it actually isn't all that close. So look at the number 29 ranked player. It's Brook Lopez, although he's a weird example because his value is tied up in one category. DeJounte Murray is a good example. He's number 27. 2 games of DeJounte Murray is 42 points, 4 threes, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, half a block. 4 games of the guy ranked right around 60 is Jeremy Grant. 4 games is 84 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists, so he actually loses assists by 2. 3.2 steals, so he wins that. 3.6 blocks, and he wins that by a lot, and about 10 3-pointers. So in that example, which is actually a really good one because their percentages are kind of close. Murray's at 47.84, and Jeremy is at 48.82. So the percentages even out. Jeremy Grant wins by 35 points. I lost track of how many 3-pointers DeJounte was hitting. He wins by 4 threes. He wins by 5 rebounds, loses by 2 assists, wins by half a steal, almost 3 blocks. And honestly, it's just not that close to most of the stuff there. Now, I mean, if you're trying to compare apples and oranges, like a guard versus a big man or something like that, it does get a little more complicated, but top 30 in 2 games, you're probably comparing to more like a top 110 guy in 4. This all comes back to like weekly lineup type decisions, which I know don't arise all that much, but it does kind of come down to how the long stream works here. Dynasty Cat. I have 5 centers and a 4-center limit on a first-round buy currently. Would you drop Mark Williams or Brook Lopez? I would drop Mark Williams because of his 2-game week next week. I get the dynasty element of it, but it sounds like you're trying to win immediately. If you're trying to win this year, you got to go Brolo. If you're looking at like 2-3 years down the line, you might end up regretting that decision, but I don't give a what about 2 to 3 years down the line. I want to win right now. Flatulente. We got Team Crop Dusters and Flatulente here in the chat room. I feel like there's a theme developing. Best guard streamers for tonight. 12-team lock in points league would drop Eason. I'm loaded in forwards. Best guard streamers for tonight. Let's see. I don't remember. It's a little bit of a quieter Wednesday. Bogdanovich, if he's on the wire, he's probably not. Wizards, maybe you could stream Kispert. I'm not a huge fan of that, but he might be floating around out there. Oladipo for Miami would be a good one. Tim Hardaway Jr. for Dallas would be more of a wing, but that's a possibility. Josh Richardson coming back for New Orleans. He would be an interesting one. I doubt there's anybody free on Portland that hasn't been picked up. Nobody really for Boston. Chicago, if you really want it, I mean, you could do like an Alex Caruso type thing or Pat Beverly and hope and pray. Thunder, maybe. Not so much in the guards there. I know. Isaiah Joe would be an interesting one. There's one. How about Isaiah Joe? And nobody really on Toronto or the Clippers. So Isaiah Joe is probably my favorite of that bunch. Love the nightly recap Twitter threads. Please keep them up. I'm going to try, man. I'm probably going to have to skip some weekends because I'm running out of gas. Yeah, Jonathan Isaac was a really slow ramp up. I don't even know if we can call that a ramp up, though, because I don't know how high they were trying to get him. That's why I kind of left him off that slowest ramp up ever, because we knew Middleton needed to get to starters minutes. I'm not sure that Isaac was going to get higher than 20, and he was basically there. Who knows, though? Maybe they were going to try before another injury. Is Clarkson still a hold with his recent injuries, or should he be more of a streamer going into the head-to-head playoffs? We'll hopefully know by later this week if this is something that's going to keep him out longer term. I will say this, I don't like it. And in an 8-teamer, you probably are going to end up streaming him. Well, Dan, I added Javon Carter at 704. Couldn't start him, so I wasted one of my moves. I was angry. Hopefully he plays Thursday for me, so it's not a complete disaster. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the deal is with Drew Holiday. They said it's his neck. You know, it's not like this was a heavy schedule deal for Milwaukee. Guess they figured they could beat Orlando anyway. So hard to say. It's going to come down to Drew Holiday. Who has better upside and more likely to play through week 22 or 23? Mikal Bridges or Freddie VanVleet? I think they both play through those weeks, because the Nets are the 6th seed. They want to try to avoid falling into the play-in. The Raptors are the 9 seed. They want to just be in the play-in. Right now, Mikal Bridges is the better fantasy asset. Freddie VanVleet's a little more streaky. He is more injury-prone, so I'll go Mikal. Neck-and-neck matchup in my playoffs. Just saw the news with Boyan. Whoa. He'll have KYR Backo in Friday. Oh, I don't know. D-Lo plays. Aaron, I hope you retype some of this because I'm confused. Wait for the Irons. Or drop due to potential season. I guess you're asking me. Oh, I have Soda Boyan on Friday. So Boyan just got the IL tag for me, so I was able to drop him into a slot. I think your phone really did you in on this one. Detroit is in the midst of a good schedule stretch, too, which is rough because they go tomorrow, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday early next week. Try to hang on a little bit longer. I mean, the news that he could get shut down is really upsetting. Here's what I would do. Wait until tomorrow. If he gets ruled out tomorrow, then you can pick up someone who has 3 games the rest of the week where you know that Boyan's best-case scenario was only 1. So that's where you're at there. Hey, Dan, for the record, I agree that Langer's is by far the best deli in L.A. Yeah, it's damn good. So it's a little bit of a schlep for yours truly, but try to get there when you can. Playoffs start next week. Should I drop Boyan for a player like DiVincenzo or Tim Hardaway Jr.? Let's do what we just said with Aaron. Wait one more day. Find out if there's any chance he's going to play again. If he doesn't play tomorrow, I think I probably would flip him for somebody who has a good schedule next week. And DiVincenzo has 4 games. Tim Hardaway Jr. has only 3, so I'd probably lean Dante. I think Livers would be a play in a 14-teamer. Yeah, 16, maybe 14. Livers doesn't have a good fantasy stat set, so I think I would say probably not 14 teams. I think he's a 16er. Is it time to drop Zion after the Windhorse news? I didn't even see any Windhorse news. I'll admit it. I've been sort of just like racing around trying to get going on this live show. But yeah, probably if you're a must win, he ain't coming back this week. So you got to make the playoffs, get those games. Thoughts on Jay Rich for this week and the near future? I mean, if he's playing here, 3 games the rest of this week isn't bad. But like I said on the streaming part of the show, don't do it unless you've got somebody who's only going 1 time the rest of the week. As far as the near future, Pell's 3 games next week, so not the greatest of schedules. And if they keep losing, he might lose his job. So I'm not like racing out to go get Jay Rich. How many ads should we try to save for the weekend? I would try to save. I mean, you got to have at least 1 because you need to be able to replace somebody who might get hurt. You can turn a 0 into 2 games that way. 2 would be optimal. I don't think you need more than 2. So 1 at worst, 2 at best. Can I drop Andrew Wiggins in Dynasty for a stream spot? No, I would not drop him in a Dynasty league. Redraft, I would more strongly consider it, but I think he's just going to resurface here all of a sudden because it's a personal thing, meaning when he comes back, he can just drop back into 33 minutes. So no, is the answer to that one. Middle of the week playoffs round 2. Should I drop Christian Wood and stream somebody? Yeah, I think so, actually. Dallas has... No, I mean, let him play tonight first. Dallas is in New Orleans tonight on the back-to-back. And then he's only got one game the rest of the week after that. So I would turn Woods one game Thursday through Sunday into a 3-gamer. Would you drop Vassell today to free up and use Jay Rich from the IL plus spot? I tried holding Vassell since opponent held Sohan, but Anthony Davis and Claxton destroyed me last night with monster games. Yeah, I mean, the Spurs are a tough cookie right now. The schedule has made it difficult. Yeah, I think I'd go 3 game. Well, no. I think you've made it this far. You hold Vassell because he does still have 2 games to rest this week. If there's only 1, I would dump him. I would have dumped him actually to start the week, I think, to turn his 2 games into a 4. But you've now missed the chance to turn his 2 games into a 4, so I think you kind of just have to sit on it. Thoughts on Bassey with Collins sitting out and Grayson Allen with a nice schedule ahead? I did pick up Grayson Allen in a league where my playoffs start next week just to try to squeeze out that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday to start next week. Yeah, I mean, you could play... No, Bassey, nah, the hell with Bassey. Because, yeah, Collins might sit, but I would rather make the move on Bassey on Tuesday of next week. I would rather use an early week move to get to a spur than have it now, unless you need the Friday, Sunday games from a spur. But if you have someone on your team that's playing Monday and then has a crummy schedule after that next week, that's where you pivot into San Antonio. Fun question. Which comes first? Pistons winning the championship or Jonathan Isaac being healthy for 1 full season? I'll go Jonathan Isaac. Sorry, Detroit. It's quite possible that Jonathan Isaac doesn't have any healthy seasons in his whole career the rest of the way, so Pistons would win that one by default, even if it happened like 25 years from now. But I'll just bank on the fact that Jonathan Isaac has a shot to have a healthy season in like the next 5 to 6 years, and I don't think there's any shot for Detroit to win a championship that fast, unless they somehow end up with Kevin Durant. In what order should I drop these guards if it comes down to it? All right, who should I drop first? Rozier, Dinwiddie, Delon Wright, DeAnthony Melton, Tyus Jones. Well, Rozier has a 2-game week. So that would unfortunately probably be the first if you're looking at next week. If schedule is not as big of a factor and it's just value, DeAnthony, then Tyus, then Delon, then Dinwiddie, then Rozier. So if schedule's not a factor, Rozier's my favorite. If schedule is a factor, Rozier's my least favorite. Would you play Wiggins once he's out of IL? I wonder if there's a ramp-up period since he's been out a while. I think he'll play high 20s in minutes his first game back because whatever's going on, it's not an injury. So I wouldn't expect much of a ramp-up. So yes, I would play him when he comes back. Mark Williams is a drop in 12-team points league with only 2 games next week, right? Yes. Or yeah, you could also drop him after his Tuesday game if you like. I mean, either way, you're going to end up turning that roster slot from a 2-gamer into a 4-gamer. The question is, would you want to get 1 game out of Mark Williams on Tuesday and then 3 games out of somebody else in the NBA? Or do you want to just get 4 games from somebody else? That's the only question you've got there. Do you think usage will go to Trey even after Josh Richardson's back? It hasn't. When Richardson was there, Trey didn't get to do very much. So I'll just go based on what we saw, and I'm going to say probably not. God, I took so much heat for saying that I didn't believe Trey Murphy was a rest of season play when the team was healthy. Now, they never got fully healthy, but even when they were close to healthy, he ended up on the bench. So I just sometimes think we need to wait things through. He's been on and off of rosters. He was on for a very long time. Then he dropped off. Now he's back on again. Now Jay Rich comes back. He might get dropped again. Eric, unfortunately, I have no idea the answer to this question. When do you think Steven Adams comes back? Because like 2 weeks ago, they said he was getting close, and then he wasn't getting close. And Memphis is one of the most cryptic teams in the NBA when it comes to injury stuff. So I have no idea. They haven't given any indication that he's all that close, frankly. But maybe he is. I don't know. Ride Xavier Tillman for now. If you were relying on Steven Adams You're presumably in a points league or punting free throws, and all of that is fine. But if you've made it this far, you probably keep going. If he's occupying an injured slot and you're in a battle, then you move on. It's the playoffs. You got to crush people. Oh, you're very welcome, G, by the way. Really trying hard here to build some stuff up. Does Tillman still have value when Adams comes back? Nope. They ain't playing those two guys together. Tillman will play 16 minutes a game when Adams comes back. So, nope. And that's that. Hour 11, hour 12. I'll have to shave off the first few minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, what time does your show start every day? It's ballpark because I do a lot of kid drop-off stuff and other things that kind of screws things up time-wise. Today got started at 9:05 Pacific time. My target is 9. It doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it gets pushed back to 9:10 or 9:15 or even 9:20. Lately, I've been able to get it going by about 9:05, 9:10, but I would say between 9 and 9:10 Pacific time, 12 and 12:10 p.m. Eastern time here on YouTube. And we'll try to do it every single day when the kids are not on winter break, I think is probably or not winter break, but just school breaks. That's the thing that would muck it up, and then it would have to be a different time. But as long as we're on a schedule, around then. Would you drop Okongwu, Collins, or Horford? Punt 3-pointers. Not Okongwu, because the Hawks have a good schedule right now. Collins, he's been bad, but again, the Hawks have a good schedule. It's probably Big Al, because after today, they only have one game in the last 4 days this week. And then, he'll play 3 of their 4 games next week. So I'd rather have Horford for that than these other 2 dudes. But, I mean, you got to get there. So, unfortunately, it's Big Al if you're schedule streaming right now. If this week is not as important, then you're dropping either of the 2 Hawks because their schedule next week sucks a butt. How long ago was the draft on your background? That was 2020. That was the end of 2020, COVID year. Figured out something to do. It was fun, actually. I have a folder filled with the stickers of the other players in the NBA that didn't get drafted. I feel like I could just start slapping them on the board in weird spots. But then it would screw up who people actually took. Like, look at who these guys... Look at where guys were going in 2020. Let's make fun of Bogman. Love Scott Bogman. You are welcome. All right, everybody, remember to click like and subscribe to the YouTube page on your way out. I know at least one of you hasn't done it, so please do that now. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, and I will talk to you over on Twitter at Dan Bespris. Please go find us there, or Discord. Should I throw the Discord link in here at the end? Yeah. If you haven't exited out yet, here is the Discord link. That's what I will leave up on the board as we sign off. You should be able to just click that out of the chat room. But if the chat room isn't working right for you, maybe you can type it in, or you can be like, Dan, find me on Twitter. Be like, Dan, I need that Discord link. Get on over there and we'll hang out. Later for now, everybody. Oh, wait a minute. Who to drop a 9-cat to stream might be punting threes. I think you could drop... Well, Jaden McDaniels only has 1 game the rest of this week. So that's a pretty easy choice. If you need to maximize games, you can turn his 1 into a 3. Everybody else on that list has, I believe, at least 2 games the rest of the week. And then Dennis Schroeder, I think, is about to lose a lot of his role with D'Angelo Russell coming back. So he would be my second choice. You are welcome. Here is the Discord link one more time. And now for real, bye-bye, everybody.